The Weasley family origins. The Weasleys are one of the oldest pureblood families in Britain. Their name even appears on the Sacred 28, a list of supposedly true wizarding families. But here's the twist. They're kind of the rebels of that list. While other pureblood families clung to their superior bloodlines, the Weasleys refused to buy into that nonsense. They were considered blood traitors, and proudly so. Arthur's mother, Cedrella Black, came from the famously snobbish Black family, the same one as Sirius Black, but she was disowned when she married Septimus Weasley. That act alone set the tone for what the Weasleys would stand for: love and integrity over pride and prejudice. On Molly's side, the Pruitt family was just as pure-blooded, but far more honourable. Her brothers, Gideon and Fabian Pruitt, fought bravely in the First Wizarding War as part of the Order of the Phoenix. They gave their lives fighting Death Eaters, a sacrifice that left a permanent mark on Molly and helped shape the protective, no-nonsense mother we see later on. So when you look at the Weasleys as a whole, they're not just the red-haired family with hand-me-down robes. They're descendants of courage and compassion, people who chose what was right over what was easy. Arthur and Molly Weasley. Arthur and Molly Weasley might not be the richest or the most glamorous couple in the wizarding world, but they're easily among the most beloved. Arthur Weasley is like that one dad who gets obsessed with gadgets he doesn't fully understand. Except in his case, it's Muggle artifacts, plugs, batteries, even rubber ducks. He works at the Ministry of Magic in the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts office, a job that's far from prestigious, but one that perfectly fits his curiosity and kindness. He's fascinated by how Muggles live without magic, and unlike so many others, he doesn't look down on them for it. He genuinely admires them. Molly Weasley, on the other hand, is the glue that holds the family together. She's warm, tough, and endlessly devoted. Beneath her kind, motherly nature is a fierce strength, the kind that comes from loss and responsibility. Losing her brothers in the First War left scars, but it also fueled her determination to keep her own children safe no matter what. Together, Arthur and Molly built the Burrow, the Weasley home. It's a house that looks like it's being held together by magic, because it literally is. Crooked walls, odd additions and all, it's not fancy, but it radiates love. You can almost smell Molly's cooking and hear the chaos of the kids shouting over each other. It's home in the purest sense of the word, imperfect but alive. That's what defines Arthur and Molly. They make the best of what they have, and they raise their kids to be brave, kind and loyal. Values that end up shaping not just their family, but the entire outcome of the Wizarding War. Family finances. The Weasleys are one of the poorest families in the Wizarding world. In fact, they're one of the few pureblood families who live modestly. Their Gringotts vault is near empty. We even see Molly take out her last few sickles to buy school supplies for her kids. Arthur's ministry job doesn't pay much, and raising 7 children means stretching every canute to its absolute limit. But the Weasleys never let money define them. There's no shame, no bitterness, just a quiet pride in living honestly. The Burrow may be crooked, but it's filled with laughter. Their robes may be patched, but they're worn with love. Even their children learn early that wealth isn't measured in galleons, but in goodness. And fun fact, that poor upbringing actually shaped some of the most defining traits in the kids. Fred and George, for example, turned their creativity and wit into a business empire with Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. What started as school pranks became one of the most successful joke shops in Diagon Alley. So while the Malfoys flaunt their gold, the Weasleys show that true richness comes from heart, humour and humility. Their financial struggles aren't a weakness, they're part of what makes them strong, grounded, and some of the best wizards. Hogwarts experiences. Every Weasley child went through the doors of Hogwarts, and every single one of them wore the scarlet and gold of Gryffindor. It's almost poetic. Bravery, loyalty, and a bit of mischief, that's the Weasley DNA. Bill, the eldest, set the bar high. Cool, confident, and clever, he was a head boy who later went on to work for Gringotts as a cursebreaker. Then there is Charlie, the dragon expert, the guy who literally said, "Yeah, I'll go work with dragons in Romania." You've got to be a certain type of brave or slightly insane to do that. Next came Percy, the ambitious one, smart, disciplined, and maybe a little too by the book for his own good. He was the type to follow every rule in the Hogwarts handbook, which, as you can imagine, didn't always fit in with the rest of the family's chaotic energy. After Hogwarts, Percy joins the Ministry of Magic, working his way up in the Department of International Magic Cooperation under Barty Crouch Sr. Later, he becomes junior assistant to the minister himself, a prestigious job that feeds his hunger for recognition, but also pushes him to cut ties with his family. Then there's Fred and George, the twin tornadoes of Hogwarts. They turned mischief into an art form. Their pranks weren't just funny, they were legendary. From fireworks to swamp experiments, they practically gave Filch a nervous breakdown. But even in their madness, they had heart, the kind that stood up for the underdog and never backed down from injustice. Ron came next, and for the first time, we see what it's like to grow up in the shadow of so many great older siblings. At first, he's insecure, always comparing himself. But through his friendship with Harry and Hermione, Ron steps into his own. He becomes a hero in his own right, loyal, brave, and fiercely protective. And finally, Ginny, the youngest and the only girl. Don't let that fool you, though. She's tough, fiery, and maybe the boldest of them all. From the Chamber of Secrets to the final battle, Ginny proves she's every bit a Weasley and every bit a warrior. Friendship with Harry Potter. The Weasleys' friendships with Harry Potter started at King's Cross Station. Harry, completely lost and alone, overhears Molly Weasley helping her kids find platform 9 3/4. That moment changes his life forever. He meets Ron on the train, shares snacks, trades stories, and by the time the train pulls into Hogwarts, a lifelong friendship had begun. The Weasleys take Harry in like one of their own. He spends summers at the Burrow, a home that's the total opposite of the cold, loveless Dursley house. Here, there's warmth, laughter, and arguments over breakfast, and most importantly, love without conditions. Molly treats him like her own son, even sending him Christmas jumpers and defending him like a lioness. Arthur, ever the curious dad, peppers him with questions about Muggle life, like, what exactly is the function of a rubber duck? And Fred and George, they give him the kind of sibling bond he never got to experience growing up. Through all of this, Harry finds something he's never had before, belonging. And for the Weasleys, Harry becomes the 8th child they didn't know they needed. It's this friendship that anchors so much of the story, because when things fall apart, when the world gets dark, the Weasleys and Harry stand by each other. Through every loss, every danger, every heartbreak, they stay a family, blood or not. Family tragedies. But being a Weasley isn't all laughter and pumpkin pasties. The family carried their share of heartbreak too. Before Harry ever entered the picture, Molly had already experienced unimaginable loss. Her brothers Gideon and Fabian Pruitt were both members of the First Order of the Phoenix. They fought valiantly in the First Wizarding War, but were brutally killed by Death Eaters. Molly never got over it. That kind of pain doesn't fade. You can see it in her protectiveness and her constant worry. Every time one of her kids heads into danger, that grief flickers behind her eyes. As the Second Wizarding War begins, the danger returns in full force. The Weasleys are constantly targeted because of their loyalty to Harry, their open opposition to Voldemort, and their refusal to bow down to blood purity. Their home, the Burrow, is even attacked and set ablaze in the Half-Blood Prince. Then came the ultimate heartbreak, the Battle of Hogwarts. The family fought side by side, as they always had, but not all of them made it out. Fred Weasley, one half of the beloved twins, was killed during the battle in an explosion that also wounded Percy. It's one of the most devastating moments in the entire series. Fred's death isn't just sad because of who he was, funny, fearless, and full of life, but because of how it happened. Moments before, he and Percy had just reconciled after years of tension. They were laughing together, truly happy, and then, in an instant, he was gone. That small, tragic detail makes it all the more crushing. The Weasleys have always stood for love, humour, and hope, and losing Fred shattered that foundation. But even in the face of that grief, they didn't break. They mourned, they fought, and they carried on, because that's what the Weasleys do. They endure. For George, it's a wound that never heals. Losing your twin isn't like losing a brother. It's like losing half of yourself. The two of them had shared every thought, every joke, every dream. After Fred's death, George continues their business, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, but it's never quite the same. Even the laughter inside that shop carries a trace of sadness. Later, when he and Angelina Johnson have a son, he names him Fred, a small act of remembrance, a promise to never let that spark fade. Fred's death wasn't just the loss of a beloved character. It was the price the Weasleys paid for standing up against evil. And in the middle of that tragedy, the family's strength shines brighter than ever. The Battle of Hogwarts. The Battle of Hogwarts is the moment everything the Weasleys stood for comes to the forefront. It's their defining chapter. The entire family fights. Bill and Fleur help protect the castle. Charlie arrives with reinforcements. Percy finally reunites with his parents and siblings, standing shoulder to shoulder with them once again. Ginny, though technically underage, refuses to be left out. She joins the fight alongside the other Dumbledore's army members, proving once again that bravery runs deep in her blood. And then there's Molly Weasley, the heart of the family. During the final moments of the battle, when Bellatrix Lestrange targets Ginny with a deadly curse, something inside Molly snaps. Her grief, her love, her rage all erupts in one unforgettable moment. She steps forward, eyes blazing, and yells the line that became legendary. "Not my daughter, you bitch!" In that instant, Molly, the gentle, motherly figure who spent years cooking breakfast and knitting sweaters, becomes a warrior. And with one spell, she ends Bellatrix's reign of terror. It's poetic justice, a mother's love defeating one of Voldemort's most twisted followers. By the time the dust settles, the Weasleys have lost a son, but they've helped save the world. Their courage, unity, and sacrifices are woven into the victory itself. The Battle of Hogwarts might have taken a lot from them, but it also proved who they truly were, the heart and soul of the wizarding world. Family values and dynamics. At the end of it all, the Weasleys aren't remembered for their wealth, power, or bloodline. They're remembered for their values. In a world obsessed with status and purity, they show that real strength comes from love and loyalty. They raise their kids to be brave, kind, and unafraid to stand up for what's right, even when it isn't popular. They welcome outsiders like Harry and Hermione without hesitation. They open their home to anyone who needs warmth. What makes the Weasleys so special is how real they are. They argue, they tease, they struggle. But at the end of the day, they always come back together. Arthur's fascination with Muggles, Molly's fierce protectiveness, Ron's loyalty, Fred and George's humour, Ginny's spirit, every one of them reflects a piece of what makes the family whole. Maybe that's why fans love them so much. They're not perfect, but they're genuine. They remind us that heroism doesn't always come with fame or fortune. Sometimes it's found around a crowded kitchen table in the middle of chaos with people who love you enough to fight beside you. Even after all the heartbreak the Weasleys endure, they rebuild, they laugh again, and they keep living by the same belief that's carried them through every generation. That love, messy, loud, and unconditional, is the strongest kind of magic there is.